What is Section 8 really? In this video, I'm going to tell you what it is in layman's terms, and then I'm going to tell you how the money flows from the government and makes its way to you. And then I'm going to tell you about two concepts that you need to know if you plan on renting to somebody who has Section 8. So let's get started. Monique Burns with Great Day Property Management. My husband and I, we buy houses in Detroit, we renovate the houses, we place a tenant, and then we sell the houses to investors all over the country and all over the world who love to get the return on investment that only Detroit right now can provide. I am also on the board of my local RIA group, RIA of Oakland. RIA is Real Estate Investors Association. And there's RIA groups all over the country. I highly recommend that you get involved in a RIA group. I'm on the board, so my position is that I do the beginner landlord class, and this is one of the subjects that I teach is about Section 8. So if you are local, head on in, we'd love to see you. So enough of the ads, let's get to it. What even is Section 8? In very, very layman's terms, it is money from the government to the landlord to help cover a tenant's rent. And I have a blog that I wrote about this in far more detail. It's a way for people that have very low income to get help paying for their rent. Section 8 doesn't usually pay all of the rent, they pay a portion of it. However much income the tenant makes, Section 8 will take 30% of that and say, now you need to pay the landlord yourself that amount of money. But then they'll pay the rest right to the landlord. So I'll tell you how this works. It starts with HUD. So HUD is Housing and Urban Development. HUD has a certain amount of money to give to PHAs, which is what they call Section 8 offices. So HUD gives money to the Public Housing Agency, which is what I call the Section 8 office. And they have different names. Like where I live, there's a Taylor Housing Commission, there's a Livonia Housing Commission, but then there's a CMA and there's RPI. And these are different places where tenants go to get their voucher. Back before all the fair housing laws came into effect, different municipalities or cities would start their own Section 8 office. That's why some of them are named after a city. And then with fair housing, they said, well, you can't tell people where to live because that's discrimination. So now the different housing commissions service different regions. But then there's another one in Michigan called MSHDA, Michigan State Housing and Development Authority. And MSHDA is huge. They're like the biggest PHA out there. So they subcontract with private groups that offer the Section 8 housing vouchers. But you want to know, how does the money get to you? So the PHA, then they go into a contract with the tenant. I have a whole video on roles between the Public Housing Agency, the tenant, and the landlord, so be sure you watch that one. The PHA every month then deposits that HUD money into your bank account. So it goes from their HUD to the PHA to the landlord. Direct deposit into your bank account. If you were wondering, should I rent to somebody with Section 8? That's a big pro, and I have a whole video of my own pros and cons of renting to Section 8, and I'll tell you, my video is not like any other one that I've seen out there because the other ones don't sound like they have had the amount of experience that I have had here in Detroit renting to people with Section 8. So I told you there's these two things that you really need to know. Each Section 8 office or PHA has a region that they service, and it's not spelled out. Nobody really knows what the border is of that region. And what that means is if somebody calls me for my house in Detroit and they're with Taylor Housing Commission, I would look at that and say, okay, that's probably my region. That's in the metropolitan area. That's outside of Detroit proper. It probably would work. But if somebody came to me and they had a voucher from the Upper Peninsula, I'm going to say that's not my region. Or if they had a voucher from Ohio, I would say that's probably not my region. New people to Section 8 don't always understand the regions. They've been told by HUD, we can go anywhere in the country. So they get their voucher and they go looking anywhere. So that's something that I pay attention to. I look at the address of the Section 8 office. A person who has been on Section 8 for a while, they know the region. They know what city they can rent in, and you're good. Well, you can still rent to somebody who's out of the region, but then you have to go through porting. And for somebody to port from one, like say from Ohio to Detroit, it's a very long process. So you have to decide, are you up for it? Because it can take anywhere from an extra 3 weeks to an extra 3 months. So when people say that they're porting, I'm kind of like, sorry, we're like ready for someone to move right in. Unfortunately, they cannot port unless they have a sealed deal with the landlord they're going to rent from. They have all these waiting lists of people that are so eager to get on Section 8. I have another video all about how to get on Section 8. Landlords need to know this stuff. When you get a Section 8 tenant that calls you to rent a house, you need to know how to interview them on the phone before you even show them the house. And I have a whole series of questions that I do to get to the bottom of how their voucher works. So check out that video too. I have a whole series of videos about Section 8 because there's so much to know and there's so much false information out there. So be sure you check out my playlist, and thanks for watching.